can see, we have a bunch of talented filmmakers with us today, directors and producers, big names, all of them. I would like to begin with a small story. In the 1860s or 70s, Eastern India's first female doctor, Dr. Kadambini Ganguly, when she went to visit a patient, the family people, they came down and she descended from the palanquin and they were like, okay, this is a lady, where's the doctor? So, and now to 2020, we are making films. So I would request you to share your experiences that how does the industry look at female filmmakers in 2020?
I think Netflix has leveled the playing field to a large extent. So if we're talking about the industry, the reason we're all here today is because of Netflix and because of OTT platforms, which have blurred the traditional boundaries that used to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And coming to the OTT experience, I would like to ask that, do you think that OTT gives a much better scope? And also, as we know that there's no censorship. So is that a more creative satisfaction for a filmmaker?
Well, definitely Netflix in particular and OTT does encourage you to tell the story so that it's true to itself and the world. And that includes all aspects. You can be true to each character. You don't have to, if someone needs to talk a certain way to make that character more believable, they can do that. So that way I feel it lends to better storytelling. And also the reach of this platform in particular is so wide. It is actually wider than a theatrical release. Because it's across 190 countries, it drops at the same time. People all over the world will see it. It's dubbed and subtitled in 30 languages. So you're actually reaching 500 million people, which is amazing.
Actually, and so the reach is across the globe, whatever you make.
Yeah.
So that must be feeling amazing for a filmmaker.
Yeah. I mean, for me, for example, because I didn't grow up in India, so my friends are actually scattered all over the world, and a lot of them don't understand Hindi. Huh. So they are suddenly, for the first time, being able to see my work, and I'm like, it's dropping in 1 hour, everyone, like from Mexico to Spain, and everyone in Japan can see it. So and they can see it in their language. So there's so much chatter on my school groups now, because they're like, oh wow, we can see Ruchi's film.
So that feels great that you can reach out to your childhood friends and all with your content.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to ask you, that there's this pressure, if it is a mainstream film releasing in a theater, there's a pressure of the opening weekend box office, which is not there in the digital platform. Right. So how relieving is that?
Well, it is a relief, of course, but there's still a pressure because, you know, it's actually going to an even wider audience. So you're very curious about how are non-Indians going to approach it, or if your film is about a particular age group or community or segment. There's that pressure. Of course, there's not the pressure of the numbers, which is a huge relief because as a producer as well, you're not constantly thinking on your ROI. I put in this much money, and that's one great thing about Netflix as well. The conversations on how much should go into the film to reach not just the characters that you want to portray, but the right kind of design you want, the kind of audio aesthetic you want to it. It's an easier conversation when it comes to the overall investment in the film. So there is a relief, but then there's a slight added pressure about how do you think Latin America would, you know, see an Indian film, because our mainstream, or let's say theatrical films, don't release in a lot of parts of the world, the US and UK of course, and Australia, given the diaspora, but now we're entering new markets, and it's very exciting to also get these reviews and just to get feedback. It's encouraging.
Yeah, I think the nerves have given way to curiosity. I really would love Netflix to tell me how many people watch Maska eventually.
You always feel that as a director, as a first-time director for me, you are so thrilled that, for example, you have a producer who believes in you, so which I have with Clean Slate Films. But there's always that thing, if it was a theatrical, I would always, all my decisions and the choices, creative choices that I might make, however much I would try to be fair to the story and the film, would have that one little voice in the corner saying, do justice to this, or think about, second guessing. Because I would want, because the producer showed faith in my story, I would want the producer to benefit from it. I still want them to benefit from it by the reach that it has globally. But what Netflix has done by coming in as the platform is that it's taken the fear of the Friday away from me, and therefore everything, all the choices that I made were to serve the story and not to think of an imaginary audience sitting in some theater and saying ki that person will like it, not like it, accept it, understand it. I don't have to think like that. I just have to do what is right for the story. So that
it's very freeing.
It's
gives you,
it's very, very liberating.
Also, the box office game has become about the first weekend.
Right.
So the added pressure, it's not just about the number, it's about the immediacy of it. And not all stories are first weekend type of stories. Many of them are stories which will grow and find an audience and possibly end up doing really well, but they need more time. And of course with Netflix, that is it. At the click of a button, whenever you want, you can watch it. So there's no time limit on it. It'll be out of the theaters if it doesn't do well, then Tuesday they'll take it up. None of that.
Today,
is there.
everybody, like a man sitting in an office, a woman, say, running a school or whatever, they're all talking numbers. When you go to restaurants or you go to, people talk about what was the collection of this one. They know, iske itne crore hue, ye flop ho gayi. It's awful for the creators, because everybody can take a selfie now and is a star. Everybody has an opinion on what the numbers are and whether the film is good or not. Bases that.
And more often than not, the numbers are not a direct relation to the film. It could be a bad date, it could be limited screens, it could be limited marketing.
There are so many factors.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you.
And that's the great thing about it being out there for you to watch it whenever you want, in pieces, the entire thing, and for you to be able to interact with the story that much more.
One thing I would like to ask you all, that the kind of shows that we see on Netflix, and we not only see them, we discuss. Netflix web series are often discussed among friend groups on the social media. Do you think that digital platform like Netflix, it is offering a more mature content to the audience?
Well, firstly, now we are all hoping you'll be discussing the Netflix films, which is what we want.
Of course.
I wouldn't call it more mature. I would just say that the Netflix encourages content which is the voice of the creator. So it depends on what story you want to tell, whether it's light, whether it's heavy, whether it's magical, whether it's inspirational, whether it's gonna maybe evoke some discussion, which is what I'm hoping to do with my film. So it just gives you that kind of platform.
So it can be a sweet, light film which children can watch, to an extremely evocative, dark film that tweens will be talking about, and it's their voice and everything. So it's just encouraging good storytelling.
It's definitely widened the scope. And we, I think, tried to sort of cubbyhole people and their taste. Like, this sort of person only likes this kind of thing. No, sometimes I'm in this kind of mood, I want to watch this kind of thing. And it sort of gives you that option. And therefore, because it's catering to so many different types of people, it's just opened the whole universe up to the kind of stories
not
that
mature,
you can tell.
better.
As a viewer, I would like to add one little thing, that I find the Netflix shows, the originals, the web series, more relatable. Like what they show in television soaps these days, like, I'm a woman, I cannot turn into a honeybee or a snake or a leopard.
You can, so if you like fantasy, those things can happen.
So I find these more relatable, the digital platform shows.
There's also fantasy.
Sorry. Well, also, India is such a diverse country, but we have traditionally not seen that reflected in our cinema. and we've not seen it reflected in television because everything becomes homogeneous and the same. And what platforms like Netflix are doing is bringing out, reflecting the diversity that is India, and also creating an audience and introducing people to new things, because you may not want to be introduced to something out of your comfort zone if you're going to pay 700 rupees for each family member. But if you're sitting at home, you have nothing to lose to, turn it on and see something different, which is great.
And one thing I would like to know, that the younger audience is moving towards OTT even more, I feel.
Yeah.
Does that, and they are very vocal on social media, they often express whether they like it, whether they dislike it. So that becomes easier for a filmmaker, that because you're getting the direct feedback from the viewer, is it easier for a filmmaker to?
It's easier if they like it.
That
And if they don't like it, I feel like arguing with them, but I restrain myself.
Yeah. I mean, feedback, I feel, is always good for the next thing
What's
that
up
you
next?
do. That's how we grow.
But like as I just mentioned, that on social media they often criticize, also they often post. So how do you take that criticism? Does it feel bad, or you take it positively? How does criticism affect you?
On social media?
Like if they're talking about your work.
I think it depends on the day and the criticism and the mood, and if it's sunny or rainy. I mean,
How they say it?
Yeah, how they say it as well, and where they're coming from also. Sometimes people will just watch 10 minutes and have something to say, as they'll write a film on what they're saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will watch the film and they'll talk about one particular thing, whether it's good, bad or ugly. It's some of that feedback is actually helpful for the next thing that you're doing. And we can't always think we know everything, we actually don't. So it helps keep that in mind for the next thing, that maybe something did get left out. It can be good feedback in terms of what's up next.
Yeah, I mean, retrospectively, you can't really do much. The
It's already
film
done.
is out there. But I think it's also, it gives a really good insight to the pulse. Like, what are people thinking? Where are they at? Trends. And it's just general curiosity.
In an ideal world, everyone is entitled to an opinion and they should be able to voice it.
Totally.
Absolutely.
can
So
go right
it was nice talking to all of you.
Thank you so
and,
much.
thank you so much for joining us today. Take care and have a good day.
Thank you.